We are live.
Perfect. Okay. So, hello everybody. Welcome to STEMPeers Global Conference 2020. After an exciting talk by our keynote speaker yesterday and our undergraduate session, this is our day 2 of the conference, and we have our graduate panel here. Our moderator today will be Nirzari Gupta. I'm going to pass it on to her so she can introduce herself, and then we can go around the room. Nirzari?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mansi. Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is a bright sunny day here in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm very excited to be here. My name is Nirzari Gupta. I'm currently working with US FDA as a researcher in St. Louis, Missouri, with the Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Analysis. We have a very exciting set of panelists today with the experts, and STEMPeers Global Conference 2020 is going really well with all the information and expertise advices we are getting from the panelists. So we have two main panelists today, Samantha and Lorena, and we have four experts, Raja, Angela, Wei, and Eric. They will introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll start with their journey and the very exciting conversation. But thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mansi and the STEMPeers team for organizing this, and let's get it started. So first, I guess, Samantha and Lorena, you guys can introduce yourself.
Do I have to do the 7-minute thing, or is it because I don't?
No, just the small thing. This is what you're doing right now and what you want to gain from this.
Right. So, yes, my name is Samantha Vanderhoff. I am currently a 5th-year graduate student at Kent State University. I study behavioral neuroscience, and I look at how trauma during early life or adolescence actually changes behavior in adulthood, and more looking at psychiatric symptom development and how, if we treat adolescents, how we can maybe prevent that, the onset of psychiatric development, and how that works in the brain. And so what I'm interested in is basically making information that I find interesting or that other scientists have found and making that accessible to the general public, because I think a lot of the time people, like, there's so much research going on, but very few people have access to it besides us as scientists. And so that's a primary goal of mine. And hopefully out of this, I can kind of learn what the best way to go about doing that, if that's in academia or transitioning into another type of industry field. And so that's really what I'm hoping to gain, and hope other people who are watching who are also in the PhD can also gain some other things aside from me just having my own goals, but trying to help people understand different options that they have available to them.
That's great. Lorena?
Well, my name is Lorena, and I did my bachelor degree in Peru. Then I moved here to Germany. I'm doing currently my master's program in biotechnology and plant biotechnology. And now I'm in my last year and doing my master thesis at the Leibniz Institute for New Materials in the group of dynamic biomaterials. And I'm interested, my topic is in metabolic engineer of a protein. And since the beginning of my studies, I was actually really interested in what is biotechnology and its applications together with synthetic biology. And I'm interested in the ways you can apply this. At the very beginning, I was more into how can this be applied in crops field and in different types of crops, so they can have some type of immunity to different pathogens. And then I moved a little bit. This is how my journey began. This is why I had my studies in plant biotechnology. But then I moved a little bit to what is medicine in the health environment and how to apply these into drugs and the bacteria producing these more to the health area, which I found really interesting. So I think I'm more fun to this now, and I would like to apply this in the future, my future. And yeah, I'm hoping for some insights into this.
That's great. That's great. Amazing. So we have both of the spectrum covered as a panelist. We have a master's students and a PhD students who's ready to go into the real world and make some difference. So that is amazing. Let's start with our experts. Let's start with Raja.
Yeah, hi. Raja, and I think I'm probably an odd person out that I'm not from the science area, more of an engineer. So currently, I work in Sweden. I work with battery cells. So my day-to-day task is basically like I work at Volvo Cars. So basically, trying to understand how cells work, like the physics of how battery cells work, and trying to create engineering models for that, so that even like typically the car has to be produced much before the cells are produced. So, or like the car has to be designed much before the cells are produced. So, I work with performance models such that the the requirements of the cars can match what we are expecting, and also on how the cells will age given a typical usage scenario. So we also work with long-term prediction on like, so we have like maybe a few months of data, some few years of data, and try to predict when would probably the cell die. Like, is it like 8 years, 20 years, or what happens then? So that's what I
Mhm.
do my day-to-day task.
Yeah. So that's when you buy a new car, right? After eight
Probably,
years,
or
if
change your
the
whole
cell
battery
dies.
pack. Yeah.
Okay.
But I just have to
Perfect.
mention as well, because I'm actually transitioning from my previous company and I'm starting my new job tomorrow. So I'll be
Wow.
working with an
Congratulations. Nice.
engineering simulation company. So I don't know what's there in my new job there, but
Hmm.
so I will be talking about what I've been working until now, because that's
Okay.
what I have experience with. Yeah.
That's excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. So, Angela?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited about this discussion and where this is going to lead. I'm really happy to share whatever I can about my experience. May not be perfect fit to everyone else, but I'm happy to be part of this. So thank you for that. My name is Angela Junglin. I'm a data scientist at Sarah Cannon, which is actually the oncology service line of HCA, which is Hospitals Corporation of America. Been there since 2019. And so what our focus is within the department that I'm in, the outcomes department, so we do health economics outcomes research,
Mhm.
and we look at it from a retrospective analysis from EMR data. So we're looking at EMR data across 180 hospitals. So this is really kind of based off of either investigator initiatives, so different lead physicians that are interested in questions that are pertaining to their patients, or we have sponsored initiative endeavors as well. So then that would be a biotech company or pharmaceutical company, something like that, that would be interested in understanding more about our population from HCA or from Sarah Cannon if you're looking more on the oncology side. So we do definitely straddle both ends of that. And so we've been working through that, and it's really cool. I started off in a department that was very small and was still very new. So we're growing, and it's a very established company, but the department's was really small. So we've been really working together to start developing different processes of how best to handle this, because we're not clinical trials. We're, a little bit more rogue. We're working with the real world data. So that definitely transitions and changes a lot of the processes, and, really having to set those expectations with whether that be sponsors or other physicians that want to work with us. Not clinical trials, we can't do that work. We're working more on this real world side. So it's very exciting to see it grow and develop. I do have to say, I am here on my own behalf and with my own opinion, so it's not reflective or as a sponsor I guess representative of HCA or Sarah Cannon. But I'm really happy to dive into anything about those experiences.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Isn't it amazing that how what we learn in books or in publications we can apply to the real world once we start with any startups or once very new foundations. So I'll be really exciting to know about it. That's amazing, Angela.
Yeah, the application is huge. It's very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it comes with a risk, right? Like that Spider-Man movie thing that a huge responsibility comes with like risk. So perfect. Thanks for that. So Wei, let's start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Wei, and I'm an immunologist, which means that I study the body's own defense against viruses, bacteria, and all kinds of pathogens, stuff that could potentially make you sick, right? So right now, I work at the Gene Therapy Center at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. So gene therapy is like you can use a virus to like carry a piece of gene, and then that virus is going to attack your body and insert that piece of gene into your body, right? Why do we want that? Because there are so many people that are born with all kinds of genetic defects. Sometimes like they're like causing severe like developmental issues, mental issues, and all kinds of things, right? So yeah, so basically there's a way to use a virus to carry a correct copy of genes and then use that virus to insert that correct copy of genes into your body, and that corrects your your own mutations. So what does an immunologist have to do with that? So like, because it's a virus, your body will make immune response targeting that virus, and that kind of like makes this therapy less effective. So what I'm doing right now is that I want to study what kind of immune responses are there in when you are applying gene therapy into a patient, and how we can suppress that kind of immune responses to make it more effective. So that's what I do right now.
It's amazing, especially looking at the current situation, pandemic going on. You must be getting a lot of questions for people that how does virus work? Why can't you like make the therapy right away? But excellent.
Yeah.
This is right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it is very difficult. It is very hard. And in our lab, we do try to use the gene therapy to see if we can make like your body more responsive to like the COVID-19 antigens and so on. Yeah, that's part of the things that we do in our lab as well. Yeah.
wow, perfect. Very nice. It's very gratifying to work with like real world problems. Um, thank you, Wei, and we are excited that you are here with us today to discuss about your journey as well. So,
Thank you
so
as
Eric,
well, Alex.
yeah, of course. So,
Yeah.
Eric, yeah, let's start with you.
All right, so thank you for inviting me to this panel, and hello to all the viewers out there, either in real time or watching the recording. So my name is Eric Christensen. I am currently essentially a senior postdoc at I'm in the unit on the chemical and structural biology of membrane proteins at the National Institutes of Health. So I'm in Bethesda, Maryland. And so I've been in this position for a number of years now. And so I'm currently doing crystallography, doing a little bit of electron microscopy. Primarily, I'm a protein biochemist. That really is where my training is centered. I grew up in West Virginia, so I'm really a redneck at heart. I try to purge the accent as best I can, but it comes out sometime. I went to West Virginia University. I was in the marching band for 4 years. I was a biology major. And so whenever I was in undergrad, I seriously considered being a music major. And I decided, no, that is in fact a hobby. I want to do science for an actual career. So I still play trombone a bit. But really, I graduated with a degree in biology, went to WashU School of Medicine for graduate school. Was in the Department of Cell Biology and Physiology there for a number of years. And I was working really on proteins that permeabilize mitochondria to accelerate the apoptosis cascade. This is the BCL2 protein family, if you've heard of it. And then I moved on to NIH, and my primary project is right now sort of looking at iron trafficking in cells and really trying to deduce the structural and physicochemical nature of iron trafficking and metal trafficking in general. And so in particular, I work on metal transporters, the proteins in the membranes that move metal ions from one side to the other. And then in particular, this is important because iron is essential for essentially all known organisms. Everything requires iron for its enzymatic processes, but how it is, for one, brought into the cells, it's sequestered, it's ligated into the necessary sort of cofactors and groups which sort of restrains its catalytic activity. There's a lot of empty spaces in our understanding, especially when it goes between compartments. And also, iron and other transition metals are important for other pathogens. One of the sort of avenues of immunity is the nutritional immunity response, whereby you either starve pathogens of metal ions or you bombard them with metal ions. Typically, you starve them of iron, and then you can bombard them with zinc or copper. And then that will either starve them to death or poison them. And so that's another sort of route that our research has taken me in. And again, like I said, I'm a protein biochemist in sort of centrally, but I've sort of grafted on structural techniques onto that. And right now, I'm trying to wrap this up, or wrap up this postdoc, and I'm looking for kind of industrial positions in biotech or pharmaceutical companies.
Okay, that's really good. We will be coming to that point as well, that when you actually know, that this is now, it's the time that I want to make a change, or this is the time I want to try completely something new, or just a small avenue change where you want to apply your expertise into the industry. So we'll be definitely coming back to that. So thank you so much for introducing yourself. You guys can see that how a diverse set of expertise our panelists and our experts have. And this will be like really good conversation. I feel that definitely. So now what we are trying to do is I'll ask Samantha and Lorena that from their journey, is there any particular set of things you want to know? So our experts will actually chime in and emphasize more on that topics.
Yeah, actually, I'm interested. I have heard some have mentioned, if it's not most, that they are more or less in the industry or going into industry, coming back from industry. So I would like to know which were the factors that made them go into it or leave it, and which things are, or skills, decisions are important for this.
What are skills, right? Okay, very nice. What about you, Samantha?
So I think because I'm currently looking at the job market, and I just find myself being like, what do I do? Because I feel like there's so many options available.
Oh yeah.
And I think that the PhD, and even I'm sure at the master's level, you develop so many skills that you're like, well, I could do that here, I could do that here, I could do that here. But it's like, how do you identify which path is the right path for you? And like, what's really calling you out, and how do you figure that out for yourself? I'm not sure if anyone's going to have that right answer, but I think just kind of piecing that apart for each person, how they figured it out.
Definitely.
I'm sorry. No, another thing I was thinking is maybe most of you, I think, had already a PhD, and how has this helped to get where you are, and if this was really important for you, it helped a lot or not. And because right now I'm in the last year of my master's, so there is this option that you can go straight to industry or work or whatever, and maybe it helps or not depending on which branch are you. So this is one thing. It's just not just me. I think other people wonder it also.
Okay, this is excellent point. So experts, if you can also chime in into that in a way that how you at that time, how did you figure out that you want to do PhD? Because definitely for me, it was also one of the biggest, I would say biggest decision, because it's a long time commitment. So, and our audience is both masters and PhD students. So let's start in the same sequence. Raja, I'll give you the floor for around your journey and your getaway messages.
Yeah. So I originally, let me start. So I did my electrical engineering in India. Then I moved to Singapore, where I did my PhD again in electrical engineering. But my PhD thesis was focused mostly on this specific battery technology called flow batteries. And Yeah, I'll probably like talk about my decisions at each of these levels so that like yeah, it gives some idea on like what went through my mind like when I had to take these decisions. So when I went to Singapore, there were like a few options. I met with a few professors. I got to know what they're working on. But the choice of choosing this area was that like when I was talking, everything was interesting, but this topic was marketed really well by my supervisor at that point. So it's like he showed me a graph where like batteries are the future. So it could have been a very naive decision, but I think like it's also like internally, like if something interests you, it interests you. So it's like you just need like someone to say that, okay, there is a future to whatever you can pursue here. So then I chose that. Then during my PhD, like I had some, yeah, hurdles in the sense that like my professor like moved to another university. I had to switch my supervisor. So then there are like I think everyone goes through a bunch of issues like during that PhD because it's usually a journey that you take by yourself. Like even though you have a group, like each one's journey is unique in a specific way. So but then I think in the end it all worked out that like I was able to graduate on time. So I'm just like glad that like I was lucky that none of these transitions or hurdles like stopped me at any point. So I was able to like complete my PhD on time. But then I finished my PhD. Then I was also unsure. Like I was not sure whether like I wanted to do a postdoc, wanted to move to industry. Again, like you are given with a lot of options, and everyone says that if you talk to someone from industry, they say that industry is the best way to go, and postdoc is like you get a lot of time to work on your research, like advance it a bit more. So then you get to a stage where like, what do I do now? So I was also in the same state. So at that point, I decided maybe I'll choose something it's in between. So I went to a research institute where like they had projects from industries as well as government projects. So I worked in Belgium for about 2 years. It's called Flemish Institute for Research. And there was also a small change like that. I did my PhD in flow batteries, but then I had to work on like many other battery chemistries when I moved to Belgium. So but that was also interesting. It helped me like understand my priorities. Like I was not sure like what was right for me, but during that process we had like government funded projects and industry projects, and I really liked how industry projects worked based on deadlines. And I thought like that was less stressful to work on things that had like strict deadlines, strict deliverables, that it's not a project for 5 years where like usually first 2 3 years are a bit slow, then like you try to wrap up everything and it's a bit stressful in the end. So I really like that part of the industry task that we got. So then I decided I wanted to move. Then it was also like I was again like I was in Singapore, then I was in Belgium, and again like the point is being in a specific area of research, it's not very easy to find opportunities in the same place that you're looking for. So then I had to like look for opportunities outside. So I didn't cancel any place out. So I was like, I'll just see like where things take me. So I was looking for opportunities outside. Then I found a good opportunity in Volvo Cars. Ended up here, but here like they work specifically on lithium-ion battery. So even though I was not sure what I was going to do in Belgium, having the exposure to work on a different technology, like in a different battery technology, really helped me to help me finding this job here. So I guess yeah, that helped in a way that I didn't expect something to happen. So then I started my work here. I think like for the last 2.5 years, it's been a really rewarding space where like you work a bit on product, you work a bit on your methods, developing your methods, and like it's also nice because like it's a time when electric cars are coming out. So it's good to be in an industry where like it's in its very nascent stage, so that you can influence a lot on what kind of decisions are taken and how you can try to basically create a method so that like someone can work with it for the next few years.
Okay.
So that
So,
was my journey.
so let me chime in a little bit. So two of the points I found really interesting about Raja, and I want to emphasize that. So one of the things that choosing the right career in a way, of course, you want to have interest in it. You want to have at least a set of expertise and skills for it, but also look for something which is upcoming, right? Which is going to be in like next 5 years. You don't want your topic to be completely outdated and your skills to be completely outdated. So this is something I guess I would want to emphasize for the people who are looking to transition, that also look for something which is upcoming, right? And the second thing is about what you said about the uncertainties. So being, I guess, in a science, and we work with a lot of facts, and we love timelines. We want to know everything, but at one point we have to expect, we have to, like, just let it sink in that this is a journey. We don't know things, so it will be just after trying out. So what Raja said, it's something really we need to sink in a way that it's okay to not to know, we'll try it out and we'll know about this. So excellent. Yeah, thank you so much. What else you want, I mean, right now, what do you find is the most fun part in your job?
I think the most fun part is like collaborating with people. So sometimes like you get, that's also something that you face in PhD. Like you are in your own zone a lot of time. That like when I was doing my work, I thought like, yeah, whatever I was working on was like, yeah, it's going to change like energy storage. But then during my defense, someone in the panel asked like, do you think it's actually going to have a future? I was not sure. Maybe not.
Maybe.
So yeah. So, but I want to, like, when you're doing your PhD, you want to believe in that so that
Right.
it pushes you through till the end. So, but again, like, I think collaborations are like one of the most important things. And I think it's a skill that develops over time on trying to see where people come from. So to try to see basically like a question that comes from like someone else that who doesn't know your field, but they want to have your input so that you finally make a product better. So I think that's the most fun part. Sometimes you will get like really interesting questions.
Amazing. Perfect. So I'm opening the floor to panelists if you want to ask Raja any questions.
Yeah, so one of the things, and I'm sure like other experts can maybe chime in on this too if they have any insights. So you talk about at that time when you were finishing up your PhD, it's like postdoc or industry. And I feel like that's, what every PhD, whether they say they want to go in academia or not, they still like, oh, well, I should look because academia is not very, it's so competitive that the likelihood of success is actually dwindling as time goes on. So something that I wanted to ask, and again, this is to all of the panelists, is when I talk to my advisor, of course, his goal is for me to become an academic because that's what he knows. And he's like, you're going to be the happiest you'll ever be as an academic. Your life will be perfect. You're going to be amazing at it. And so when I'm like, oh, I have this interest in this other thing, and he's like, well, you can do that in academia too. I'm like, well, what about this other thing? Oh, you can also do that in academia. And it's like, it feels like, and this may be just from his experience, that academia seems to be kind of more of a blob, right? Like it can mold in different ways. But what I want to know, is there anything that is mutually exclusive between if you go into industry, this is what you will experience, versus if you go into academia, you can only experience these things in academia? Like, is there a choice that you have to make? Like, okay, you've made this choice, there's no going back. I know that's a hard question, which is why I'm like, anybody is welcome to chime in because it's, I think we need multiple.
Yeah, definitely. Other experts as well, definitely.
Yeah. I think maybe I'll start like, I think like it's possible to move between, but once you are comfortable in a space, I think it becomes difficult to make that switch after like a certain time that you spend on certain areas. But one thing that I found that's a bit, that I wish I could do a bit more in industry is that the time and space that you get to think about things through. So sometimes like in industry, like, yeah, you want to do something really like you know that there is more distance that you can go with a specific area or a concept, but sometimes the product has to be out. So in many of the things, like it's just good enough that it helps the product, and you don't have to make the best choice in each and every part of your in each and every topic that you choose. So I think that's something that you find that it's different in industry and academia.
Okay. That's really good. Lorna, do you have any questions to Raja?
No, I actually had more or less the similar, and to know how much is, for what I feel in the answer is that there is not as much freedom to go further. I don't know, maybe if this is, once you get it, yeah, that's it.
Okay, perfect. So I want to go a little off track here and ask Wei about her opinion. She has amazing past journey and current journey. And if you can chime in about this thing, that how do you know, do you go off topic or not? How do you feel that? What do you feel, Ray?
Um, what I feel is that I think Raja mentioned something that really like spoke my heart. Like he was saying how like when he was deciding what to do and so on, like the factors that he was considering. Yeah, I feel like I totally agree with him. And then I like thought about my past and how I made decisions, right? I feel like I wasn't thinking so much onto like what really helped my career and so on. I was only like focused on like what's interesting to me at that point. Like for example, like I started working like basically in my intro, I described myself as a serial quitter. It's like I started doing something and then I felt like, okay, this thing is no longer interesting anymore. I found something more interesting. So I just like quit it and then just started doing something else. And then like when I heard like the other panelists speak, I felt like, oh, like maybe I should have thought more deeply, like when I was making my decisions, maybe I should have weighed like different factors, like things like that, right? But like anyway, so I kind of like when I was okay. So when I was deciding to like basically okay. So in my intro, I quitted my PhD and then started doing a company with a postdoc that I found in the lab. So then what the reason being. That when I was doing my PhD, I was feeling that the research was more like focused on like more focused on theoretical questions instead of having like more real life applications. So when Roger mentioned how like in real life, sometimes when it's good enough, then that's like when the product is like it is like good in like there's a thing called good enough, whereas in academia you really want to like find out all the theoretical things, but like sometimes I get the kind of frustration when I was doing my PhD research. And then like, I feel like there are so many real life problems that I'm not touching upon. Whereas in the PhD program, I'm doing something that's very theoretical and probably have no like real life applications whatsoever. So that's when I felt the frustration and decided just to like quit it and then start a company and to solve some real life problems, right? And then so like the real life problem that I was trying to solve with this company is that like in the hospitals, I noticed that like a lot of like they have so much data, like they have so many patients coming in, they are applying all kinds of therapies to those patients. Sometimes they work well, sometimes they don't. And why some patients do not respond very well to the treatment, they don't really know. And honestly, the doctors, they deal with so many new patients, so many new cases all the time. They just do not have time to look and examine all the patients' cases like individually. So what I and my other the postdoc that I met in the lab, we decided to like use our experience in research just to collect those patient data, do some experiment about it, and see like why some people just don't respond to the same treatment, even though they appear to have the same symptoms, right? So we started doing that, which is kind of like, you can sell it as something called personalized medicine, which was like kind of a hot topic then and now also. And then like, yeah, so basically I did that for about 5 years. And then I decided to quit the company and then go back to academia again. Why did I do that? Because I feel like I do not know enough to really find out what's wrong with the patients. I felt like initially I feel like, okay, in hospitals, you have so much data and the data is kind of laying there. Nobody's looking at them. Like there's so many patients that like patient profiles that people are not examining. And then, so I want to examine that. So I did examine that, but I feel like I do not know enough to know what really happened. So that's why I just decided to quit again and then just want to learn. I want to learn more. I want to really like focus on one particular problem and then just examine more in depth. So that's why I came back to academia as well, like right now. And then, yeah, so that's basically like how I made my decisions. And yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so one thing, I'm not make sure I'm not muted. One thing that really spoke to me about what you just said, Wei, was that you just went off and made your own company to like find, like you developed your own solution to a problem. Although, you know, you say later that you didn't know enough to continue to do it, but and you wanted to go back so you could learn more. And so something that I've been toying around with is, do I just start my own like company? Like, is that the answer? And I'm like, that's so risky, you know? But I mean, it is an option that shouldn't be ruled out. If you see a problem, then, you know, we can kind of try to pursue it on our own rather than like, oh, I need to find a job here and do this and do this and do this. So what do you think about that? Like if somebody wants to start their own little thing?
That was actually an amazing question. I was thinking of talking about it and then I forgot. So what happened was that, when I was doing my PhD research, right? I mean, starting a company, a very important thing is that you need to have your client ready before you decide to quit. You really need to have because what's going to happen in the company is that the cash flow is extremely important. It's like, because if you hire someone, you need to pay their salary like every month or bi-weekly. Like you have to have the money ready. So cash flow is extremely important. So like what I'm trying to say is that before I quit a PhD, I was already doing some kind of like work for the hospitals anyways. So I already have my clients ready. So, and then they will go with me if I tell them, oh, I'm going to do this full time, you know, like, so, yeah. So I think that's a very important question that you are asking. And I wouldn't have quitted PhD or a previous job or whatever before I have the clients ready.
So it's not something like go ahead and start it on your own. You'll figure it out. It's like you need to have a solid plan.
I think that's very important thing. What Wei is chiming in, and you know, right now when we introduce ourselves or the expert introduced, you just they say like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm just doing this amazing job at this company or in a government lab. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. We all went through the whole level of uncertainties, self-doubt, whatnot. And same for Wei. I mean, I would not tell yourself like a serial quitter. I guess that's a very curious person who wants to explore the options, and taking the whole different level of career. It takes courage. So I think we commend you. It's amazing. So I would like, this is something we all need to like at least at one point understand that just we don't have to get stuck like at one point. Okay, I started doing something and that's what I want to do my whole life. This is not success. As a scientist, we want to explore new options and we want to explore our potential and how our potential will benefit others in terms of money, in terms of value, and both. So what do you guys think about that? Let's make it more interactive about that. So for Eric and Angela, how you decided that you wanted this journey, and what makes it much more like, what were your doubts, you know? Let's talk about that as well. And what at one point did you fail at one point, and how you get up from that? Because I definitely did a lot of times. And then next day I'm like, okay, let me try one more time. That was I think this should be my life logo, that let me just try one more time and then I'll quit. So Angela, let's start with you. And Eric, for you, I have a whole set of questions from our audiences, and they're really impressed. And for you, Angela, as well, about your journey, about mostly about your new founding company, and what are the main challenges you get, and what is the best part of your job you like.
Sure. I guess I want to start and say that Way's story, the beautiful thing about that I really relate with is that she just went and then she came back, and that's okay. I felt like, okay, if I leave, I'm never going to be able to go back. And it was that intensity of like, okay, you have to make the decision. And there's beauty to know that you've gone back. That is phenomenal. And, I think that with every journey or any step that you take, you've learned something, you've changed, you've grown, and that may change the way that you approach that next decision. At least that's how I felt with, all of the doubts and questions and everything. It's like, well, I'm in a different place than I was when I first initially decided to go into this PhD, stayed for 4 years, almost 4 years. And then decided where am I most happy? What am I most excited about? And I like to be in data. That's where I like to be. And I worked in hospitals and I worked in a detox center, and those places where you had this really intimate picture into a patient's world. It gave me, I don't have an oncology background. It was PTSD, trauma, substance use. So for me to jump into oncology was a little frightening, but it was something where I was like, okay, I can learn this, because my intentions with this is really to understand more about how I can pull what I learned from hospital data at this really high level for trauma, for PTSD and substance use. How can I move this into this new space? And the part that made me most happiest about what I was doing is that I can put these numbers together and really see if there's a difference here. Can we see if there's actually impact? So that's really how I made that that decision. I toyed with it for a while, thought about it, talked about it, overanalyzed it, changed my mind 12 times over. But then eventually I said, okay, what's the harm of at least applying? I'm not having to make any other decision there. And it just lined up. So then Sarah Cannon contacted me. It was a very long interview process. But more and more I realized I could do this. Like, I don't need to complete the PhD for me to have this job. So this was, okay, and this was a good transition for me. But now it's like, you never really know what this, now I've learned so much in this experience just in the last year and a half that eventually I might make a change, and who knows, I could go back to academia from the inspiration that way, just from her story. But right now it's really, I've been able to gain so much from this new space. And I think that the one thing that I would say is what makes you excited? What makes you want to learn more? And what makes you want to try more? Because I could not finish another sentence on this manuscript if my life depended on it, but I would spend hours writing up cover letters, and that was fine. So you kind of knew that your aspirations and your drive has changed, and that you just wanted to focus, put your love and your energy towards something that's going to give you what you need back. So that's, I don't know if you just want to answer, but that's my little mix of a story.
I really like the fact that what you mentioned, that things change with our time, because we change, right? We change over time. I remember at one point when I was relatively young, I was 19, 20 years old. At that time, I thought that I'll be a next Indra Nui. I'll be the CEO of some company and I'll be in the completely business world. And then I started my master's and I was doing research. I'm like, this is great. I love this. So things change, and that is okay, right? That's how we drive. So it's not a straight line. But yeah, Angela, thank you so much for sharing your journey. One of the things I remember Samantha asked earlier, and I want to reiterate again the question, that how did you know that this is the job which fits best to you?
I didn't.
So I want to ask.
I figured instead of it being with academia, you had a straight line, right? You knew exactly, okay, now I'm going to do a postdoc. Gosh knows where it's going to be. We're going to hope for the best. And then it's going to go on to a faculty position. You're going to hope for the best to get, in that spot that you're looking for. But for this, it was, for some reason, I had some kind of comfort with knowing if I get this job and I don't like it, I can move to another job and I can gain skills and transition. And for some reason, that gave me a little bit more comfort. I feel very comfortable in the job that I am right now, but who knows what will change and how that will transition as I grow and as I learn new things. But wherever you're at and whatever decision you make the most of it so you can gain those skills to move to that next stepping stone. But I don't know if I really knew it was okay. I just knew it was okay. If I didn't like it, I can move somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a good cushion, right? That's what I do as well. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start it and I'll see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, we'll change. It's not like something, right? So that is a really good experiment. So Samantha and Lauren, again, it's floor is yours. Let's start with Lorena. If you have any question for Angela specifically.
So more or less, based on the questions and the question I did before, is that how, because as far as I understood, what you were doing in your PhD was not as related as what you were doing now. And how do you feel like how help you your PhD for what you are doing right now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, back to your point about a master's and moving to a PhD, it kind of lines in with the same idea. My master's was in educational psychology. That's where I kind of found research and fell in love with research and decided I have to go on and do more research. So that's how I decided I was doing a PhD. But I did not have the statistical experience that I needed to get the job that I have now. So that PhD I focused more on, really pushing forward some of my analytical skills so then I could get a job like this. So I really geared more towards the data. I wanted to know more how I can analyze this. How can I analyze this the correct way? How do I answer this question appropriately? And I, took other classes that had that focal point, but then also made sure that my projects and my studies that I was working on had that flair to it. What can I learn different? What kind of approach can I take that's going to expand that knowledge base? And so that's the real reason I was able. So I still have patient outcomes. It's still kind of close, but it's not. I don't know that much about oncology. What we have now is that I have the stats background to be able to answer some of these questions. I don't know all the answers. Don't let me fool you. But I have enough of a foundation that if a physician comes to me with a very specific question about their patients, I now can kind of mold it in my head. They're going to be the subject matter expert on their patients, that specific disorder, and that information. So like they're right in the intro, if you think about it from a manuscript perspective. But the methods we work out together, and in the analysis, I'm hammering out. So then I was still able to use a lot of those skills that I gained from my PhD. Didn't complete it, but I got all the skills I needed to get into this position and be able to optimize. And from there, I have grown and learned a lot more because these are different questions or this is larger data. So that's really kind of, from my perspective, how I was able to use different pieces and parts of my PhD, even though it wasn't perfectly applicable. So it didn't overlap nicely, but it did have enough of that it kept them interested in me as an applicant.
Very nice, very interesting. So do you have any other questions for Angela? I want to, with the time perspective, I want to move to Eric and know about his academic experiences as well. Feel free to also put your questions in the chat. We will be discussing it in the end for sure. So Eric, tell us about your journey. And two of the things which I got as a question specifically for you is one of the things is how do you identify the right postdoc lab? And second thing about, is there any fellowship like PhD students can apply for the future postdoc, specifically in the NIH environment or any other government labs?
All right, so maybe I'll take the questions first. So at least for finding a good postdoctoral lab, first you have to know you want to do a postdoc. This is something that I certainly wanted to do because I went into the sciences, and so I had the ideas like I want to do science. I want to find out new things and be a scientist. It's part of my cover letter, and it's absolutely true, where scientist isn't a job, it's not a career, it's part of my identity. And so it's an integral piece of me. And so I knew this is what I wanted to do. And so I went into grad school, I completed a PhD. And so then, learning through the PhD, you certainly understand, or come to understand, that getting a faculty position is very challenging. In the US, there are enough PhDs churned out every 3 years to occupy every faculty position, at least in the biomedical sciences. So every 3 years, they could be turned over. So clearly, whenever you have 100, 200 applicants per faculty position, your odds are not terribly good. But that said, you can kind of put your thumb on the scales by doing a good postdoc. And so I managed to perhaps not do a good postdoc, though in retrospect, it's easy to say that. But I would say that choosing a good postdoc really is going into a lab that has been not only productive in terms of producing papers, but you know where the trainees have gone. So if the trainees in a lab have gone on to other faculty positions, if the lab actually produces, lab children which go on and form their own labs, that's a good sign. If they don't do that, or if you can't find out where anyone has gone to, that's not a good sign. I joined a postdoc, my postdoctoral lab. I was the first one there. So I was the first postdoc. And so I pretty much built the lab. And I strongly recommend against doing that because I thought it would give me a leg up on putting my own lab together. And certainly it would if I had been able to, get more higher impact papers. I have papers, just they're not super high impact, and I don't think I would be competitive. Sort of in that vein, I knew that since getting a faculty position is so competitive, that if I want to continue doing science, I also have to balance my options, also go into industry perhaps. And so luckily, protein biochemist, I like making proteins and figuring out how they work. So that's a pretty necessary skill set for pharmaceutical industry or biotech. And so especially with working on integral membrane proteins, these are difficult, they're a lot of challenge, you have to learn a lot. And so I thought this sort of skill set would benefit me, like not only as a possible faculty, but also going into the industry as well. These are the type of things that they would like. So that's one way of sort of identifying a good postdoctoral lab, is knowing where their trainees went, and just even asking around, just other people at your kind of career level, like what do they know about this lab? Is it a congenial environment? Is the PI a fascist? These are all good things to know.
So speaking of that, there was also one of the questions from our live audiences. You have experience with working with PIs, as well as around in NIH, there'll be multiple PIs. Is there any traits, or is there any particular questions you would ask to decide your postdoc PI? And I think this will be the question for people, mostly like Samantha, who's in the final year, deciding and talking to other people, and the students who are in the same boat. So what's your view on that? How you decide? How you know by talking with them?
Is this for me or whomever?
So mostly for you, Eric, because right now you're doing the postdoctoral fellowship.
Oh, so like, how do you know?
So it's not about more of like, you talk with the PI, you interview with them.
Yes.
What questions you ask to know that it will be a good fit, not in terms of just professional, which you describe, but also in a personal fit.
Oh, so
Tough question.
this is a while back, and so then this interview, even pre-COVID, was on Skype. So I didn't. And again, since I was the first postdoc, this was a new lab opening. I couldn't ask anything of other people in the lab. But certainly, I would consider it essential to talk to other people in the lab, and if it's in like a university lab, talk to graduate students, talk to postdocs if they're there, because they will have different sort of experiences and opinions. Yeah, definitely try to get a rounded view
And I'm
of.
sorry, Samantha is asking, trying to ask a question to
So
you,
I
Eric.
hear this for like, oh, talk to the people, right? What do you ask them? Like, do you
What
say,
do you ask?
hey, how do you like, is your boss a fascist? Like, you can't say that.
Well, can't
Okay.
we?
Can we?
I would say that that the people in a person's lab are going to be open and honest, because it's not helpful at all to give a misrepresentation of the lab. So you can ask them sort of like, what is the sort of working style that this PI likes? Does he prefer you to be in lab from 9 to 5 all the time? Do you keep your own schedule? What sort of time expectations are there? Does he expect you to be there 50, 60, 80 hours a week? For instance, my PI, he tells us that he doesn't know any successful faculty who did not spend 80 or 85 hours a week in the lab as a postdoc. And so me personally, I find that excessive. And so I definitely never put that kind of time in, but I use my time very efficiently. But you can ask ask sort of how demanding this person is, whether they're a bit more, back and forth, if there's a bit more conciliation. And certainly in a small lab, it's not as big a deal. Let's say you have 10 people. How often do you get to talk to the PI? If you're going to a lab which can have 30 people, you'll see them once a month. It'll be like an hour-long meeting.
I think Eric froze for a minute.
And
I like this. That's how that's how the career is sometimes. Wobbly. Okay, once he get let's wait for once he get back online. But by that time, we are in our final few minutes, but we can go over 5-10 minutes more. So yeah, Eric, you're back now. You're back.
Yeah, my connection broke.
No problem. So with that, I also want to ask. We got one question from the audience specifically for you again. That hi Eric, hope you're doing good. I have a question for you. Since you are looking for industry transition, do you think these long years of postdoc is helping you in the transition?
Doing a postdoc is often unnecessary. I would say that if you have a PhD and you're looking for industrial positions, you're basically already overqualified. It gives you a leg up to go higher into a company, makes it easier to get promoted between companies and so forth. But having a PhD almost, I'm serious, makes you overqualified. If you are interested in the industrial route and you're looking for a postdoc, so try to pick a lab where you can go in, you can go to the PI, look, this is my interest. I want to get a paper and get out. And so that way, you're in there for a year, 2, 3 years max. And because every day that you spend as a graduate student or as a postdoc, that's a few $100s down the drain that you're not being paid as a real employee. And so having gone through this training has been a gigantic black hole for my finances. And so you can think of it sort of on the nuts and bolts side like that. But more seriously, that is serious, but sort of when you have to think strategically and realize that you are a cog in the machine to really most sort of industrial roles. You can think, I have X, Y, Z, A, B, C, all these skills that makes me super attractive. It doesn't, because you're a cog in the machine. You need to know X and Y. So Z, A, B, and C aren't going to help. And if you learn Z, A, B, and C in years like 4 through 6 in a postdoc or something to that effect, they're really not beneficial at all, because you come into these jobs doing a fairly circumscribed role. So having the PhD is definitely beneficial. Doing a short postdoc is fine, but often is not essential. But certainly if you do a postdoc, try to get in and get out.
Perfect. This is really good. This is amazing.
Interrupt at this point and ask Eric, like, are you aware of any of the pre-doc fellowships that are available for graduate students? Because, I mean, like you said, a postdoc sometimes is not necessary. So can they make use of some kind of pre-doc fellowships that would help them, you know, just get better at whatever they're doing right now?
There are any number of funding sources, and I don't know very many of them at all. I know NIH funds a bunch of them, because there's the pre-doctoral fellowship, there's an NSF fellowship as well. And so those are the big ones, but there's American Heart, which is another large one. Yeah, you can basically just do a Google search, and there are tons of sort of fellowships. NIH is definitely the big one, and there are also the postdoctoral fellowships as well. And the NIH sets aside, I don't know how many tens of millions of dollars, possibly hundreds of millions, for these postdoctoral fellowships. And they're competitive, but they're not astronomically competitive. And so those are.
I want to also chime in on that. So for the fellowship right now in the FDA currently, there is one fellowship program called ORIS Fellowship. So if you guys are interested, you can look at it, ORISE. It's something about Oak Ridge. So that's for both masters and PhD students. The position can be specific to either of them. So look at them, definitely. This is one of the fellowships just I know, which is for postdoctoral. And even in the NIH, I guess you're you said Bethesda, right? So yeah, in Maryland, that's the same where FDA as well.
Yep. Yeah, I know a few people who work at FDA.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, so Lorena, Samantha, do you guys have any questions? This is the open floor for Q&A from to any of the experts, or to me even. If you have any questions, general or specific, feel free to ask.
Maybe I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
You're now at the working in the FDA, so I find this interesting because it's food and drug development, right? And
drug administration,
yeah. So I'm kind of interested into this area, actually both, and I would like to know which were kind of the key decisions you took, or you think which are the key decisions that help you get there.
So for me particularly, one of the things which is always very important to me is if my science is helping people right away. So not just to the company to earn money, but also to the public health. So that is more gratifying for me. And FDA or the national labs were something they do right away. I'll give you an example. We had some of the projects I was working on. One of them was on the Zentek tablets, which got recalled off, right? So our lab is the one who works with that what was the main problems, FDA recalled it, and how it is affecting, right? So one of the key decisions I took, like, if I want to continue in research, I want to continue in a way which I can, put impact on the public health. So that is one thing. And with FDA, one of the best thing is, so it's in the intersect of three things. It's government lab, it works as an industry, and we work as academia as well. We also publish. So this is what I found really exciting. So that was my key decision, definitely. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes. Any other questions to the other experts?
Lorena, I actually have a question for you. So you said your background is you're majoring in plant biotechnology, but currently you're working on bioprogrammable materials. What made you that as your dissertation thesis or your master's thesis?
Actually, it was, I think, it was casual. it happened. I got here to do my master's program, and eventually I found a student assistant work at the Leibniz Institute. So I was working there as a student assistant, and with the time I got to know that the topics that the possibility to have a topic at the university, those topics were not as interesting as the ones they were working at the institute. I felt that I wanted something more applicable, and what they do is not straightforward to an application, but the main goal is to have it. So I found this really interesting. So that's why I kind of moved, and it was still in the area of biotechnology and synthetic biology. So I was happy. I was just changing a little bit of the area, but I think this helped me a lot because I had so many courses of plant biotechnology, and now this is overlapping with cells and bacteria, and I'm really happy that I had this opportunity.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Lorna. So we have just few minutes left before we cannot go live any longer. So let's now, in the very end, let's go around the table and experts, if you can give us any takeaway message for the students or people who wants to go into academia or industry. Just few sentences. What's your takeaway home message? Let's start with Wei.
I think first of all, like unless you like you're really prepared, you know exactly what you do, and don't quit your PhD. It's like I mean, I guess it depends on the industry and depends on like I don't know how well connected you are, but having like that piece of like diploma is really important. It's going to like open more doors for you. So like for me, I kind of had I don't know, I kind of got lucky and so on. But yeah, it's best to be prepared, and to have more diploma is definitely going to help you. And also and also what I found over the years is that in order to like do something really great, to make a really big discoveries, you really have to stick to like to be more like persistent. And yeah, I think one issue with me is that I jump too much from here to there and so on. And then I like for now I want to be more devoted, and yeah, so, and also I guess just be more prepared, and like be prepared financially is very important. Be well connected is also very important. And I guess that's just the general things that I want to talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wei. Raja, what do you think?
Yeah, I think like considering the kind of discussions that we had, like one thing that like one of my research professors told me is that like during PhD you don't learn the exact topic that you're doing research in, but just
Mm-hmm.
how to do research. And I think that is something that like you can see that even in real world, like if you see someone's career over like 20 years, they may not still be like, in most cases they would be working on areas that they didn't do their PhD in. So yeah, overall, like I would say like for people who are like doing their PhDs or like want to do their PhDs, that is not so much stress on like what exactly is being done today, because you are still learning through that process. Like whatever you do, I think after that, even if you move to industry anywhere, I think you will take away that skill on how to do research, and that's really helpful. And one more thing is also that like when I talk about like retrospectively, like yeah, I may have made this decision because of A, B, and C. In most cases, it's because at that given point that seemed like the best decision. So you don't have to take the stress of this decision, how is it going to affect in the next 20 years. Each decision may not go all the way to 20 years. So it may be something like, given three choices, which one is the best one like at this moment, and you just keep going from there. So I think like it things will work out somehow. Like I think that's something that happens, I guess. Like, so
Yeah.
overall, I think like it's important that people, or like basically anyone who's like worked up about like, oh, my one result is not happening, my one paper is not
What will
getting
I do?
yeah. I think like after maybe 5 years, 10 years, when you look back,
Doesn't
maybe it
matter.
doesn't, yeah, you don't even remember like you used to stress out so much about those papers. So
I think Raja, you gave us the next tagline of our next conference, that things will work out somehow. That should be the result, right? That's amazing. Thank you, Raja. Angela.
Yeah, I think the main message that I would want to say is what we all love learning. That's why we're in science. It's what do you love? What do you love to learn about, and trying to focus yourself on that effort. So, I mean, we're all going to grow, we're all going to make decisions, and it's what's going to be the thing that's going to light you up, and that you're going to be happy to learn about. Because I felt like, where is my learning going? What's happening? What can I grow from? And I felt a little stunted at the time. So being able to transition to a new environment really gave me this opportunity to grow and be able to get new experiences. You know, with the new company that I'm with now, it is team oriented, which is not something I was very accustomed to in academia. So this was, we all are crossing the finish line to meet that deadline. And those deadlines are real. And I've always lived by deadlines. So it always really made me feel better. To know that really when we say the 22nd, we really mean the 22nd, and that the whole team is pushing forward to get to that 22nd. So you just need to find an environment that you feel safe, comfortable, and happy learning the space that you want to learn about. And like Raja just said, it's going to be, it might change. It's not going to be in 20 years the same thing that it is right now. So it's okay if it changes and it ebbs and flows. I think just stay in tune with what you want to learn about, what keeps you happy.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Angela. What do you think, Eric? Your takeaway home message?
I think perhaps my message would be that since so many of you are trainees, you're at universities or some sort of educational, you're being taught by a bunch of professors. These are people who have successfully gone into academia, and they are a select few. Then they're not even necessarily the best few, they're just a select few. And so something to keep in mind is that, as Samantha was saying, that they're going to tell you you're going to be a great academic. A, you may not want that. B, it's really tough to get. So keep your mind open as to what you would like to do in the future. Again, as Angela was saying, do something that you're passionate about, something that really is going to keep you interested in. And if at some point you decide you're not interested in, you do have a pretty strong education at this point, you can change, and you shouldn't necessarily be afraid to change. If you are wanting to stay in science, and me, I've been banging my head against the bench for a long time now. I'm not going to date myself. You can find my CV to do that. I still enjoy being at the bench and having experiments fail 6 times before I finally get usable data. I'm kind of a knucklehead like that. But that being said, you have to think strategically about where this is taking you. If you really are absolutely dead set on academia, you got to think strategically. If you're really dead set on going into industry, think strategically. What things are going to get you there? If it's academia, hone your writing skills. That's really one of the big things. Get good feedback from people who've been successful grant writers or paper writers. If you're really interested in industry, get a couple key skills that you can really put on that CV and say, I can do this, I am the expert. If you decide you want to get away from the bench completely and want to do something like science policy, or even go work at a law firm, there are certainly avenues out there, fellowships like policy fellowships. You could even contact law firms who do like patent law, and get connections in that way. And so having either a master's or a PhD in science or engineering, something to that effect, it really opens a lot of doors. But you have to be willing to step through them and say, here I am, I can't see what's on the other side. But you can do things ahead of time to really cultivate your abilities to make you as strong of a candidate later on.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. And thank you to all the panelists and all of you guys for all the experts of your valuable advice. I just like got stuck for 1 second because I got the question. Just I want to end it with asking Samantha and Lorena about their message to current graduate students, that what you do, if you have any message for them.
So I think my message would be, don't shut any doors too early, because I think we get fixated on this is the only avenue because it's the only avenue that seems to be the best choice. And it's because we're told, this is you've reached it. When you become a faculty member, you've hit the jackpot, And I think just staying open, and it leads to a lot of confusion and a lot of being lost and being like, oh my goodness, I'm going to lose my mind. But I think knowing that all of us are doing it, and so you're not alone in it. Because I think that was the thing. I felt like I was really alone. Like, oh my goodness, am I the only person who doesn't know what to do next? And that's not the case, because I find that literally nobody knows. So that's
Yeah, on that point, I mean, you have the names of ourselves. So even for the live audiences and for the panelists, like reach out to us in LinkedIn, and not just for professional. If you think like, okay, it's my melting down moment, I need to talk to someone, just talk to us. No worries. What about you, Lorena?
Sorry,
Well,
one more point, just to
Yeah,
interject
good.
there, like adding to don't shut doors. I think one more point is that like sometimes I've felt that before, that I overthink before applying for a specific job. And I don't think you have to make a decision there, because you don't have the choice at that point. So you have the choice only when you get the job, whether you take it up or not. So the choice comes a bit later. So you don't have to stress about each and every posting that someone sees, like, is this correct or not? So I think like that's a very good message, to say that don't shut any doors, keep it open and make a decision when it's actually a decision for yours to make.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Raja. So, Lorena?
well, I'm not such an expert. So as far as I have got, I think it has helped a lot to me that I kept an open mind, as you were all saying, that I had to explore different areas within what I'm interested. And this made me happy, because I really think I gained some skills which will help me in the future. And for now, talking with experts, so I can know more or less how to go on further.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So this was our panel today. I also want to give a one getaway message for people. This is the year I defended the thesis. I went into the job search for 3 months, like 3 long months, and then got the job. So all the like different type of graphs going on in my life. But one of the things I would say, that celebrate your successes as well, even though it is small. We are all often quite stressed about the mountains we want to climb, but we forget how many mountains we already crossed. So there's something, celebrate yourself and don't get too stressed. As Raja said, things will work out somehow. No worries. So I'm thank you again for all the panelists and experts. I'm handing the mic to Mansi to wrap up the session.
Thank you, Nirzari. You did a great job moderating this session. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. To our audience, I just want to say one final thing. As a graduate student myself, I want to say that don't compare yourself to other students. Everyone's journey is very unique and very different. So don't compare yourself with others and feel bad that, oh, someone else joined with me but is doing much better or has more publications. Don't do that. Everything will work out in time. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. You always have another door open for you. And as everyone over here said, like follow your passion, see what you enjoy and what you like, and just go with that. It doesn't have to be a PhD, whatever you like. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much. And I hope everyone, to our audience, I hope you all are enjoying these sessions and learning from them. And I hope you will join us over the next weekend, where we have our postdoc panel and the special issues section.